All right, let's dive into 5.1, an introduction to risk evaluation techniques. Ever wonder how successful companies seem to know which risks to take and which ones to, run away from? Well, it's not a gut feeling, and it's definitely not guesswork. It's a carefully structured process called risk evaluation. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how it works.
It's easy to think of risk management as a one-and-done deal. You find a problem, you put a fix in place, and you move on. But honestly, that's only half the story. The best strategies aren't static. They're constantly being tested and retested. The big question you always have to ask is what we're doing actually working? That's the core of evaluation, and it's what makes a good strategy truly great.
So here's what we've got on tap. We'll start with what risk evaluation really means. Then we'll get into the two main types of tools you can use, the qualitative and the quantitative. After that, we'll see how it all fits together in a structured process. And finally, we'll take a peek into the future to see where all this is headed.
Okay, so first up, what is risk evaluation? It's way more than just running a checklist to find problems. It's about measuring how effective your entire risk management system really is. Think of it like building up your organization's immune system, making it more resilient so it can handle whatever comes its way.
To really get a handle on this, we need to look at it through two different lenses. It's kind of like a trip to the doctor's office. The qualitative approach is when the doctor asks, "So, tell me, how are you feeling?" It's all about subjective insights, the why and the how. But then there's the quantitative approach. That's when they strap on the cuff and take your blood pressure. It gives you the hard objective data, the how much. You absolutely need both to get the full picture.
Let's start with the qualitative side of things. This is where we get into all the human elements, the company culture, the context, all the subtle stuff you're just not going to find in a spreadsheet. This is about understanding the story behind the numbers. A really great example of this is the Control Self-Assessment, or CISA. What's so cool about this is that it totally flips the old audit model on its head. Instead of some top-down inspection, it empowers the teams who are actually on the front lines to evaluate their own processes. This builds a real sense of ownership and helps create a risk-aware culture from the bottom up. And CSAs are really just one tool in a pretty big toolbox. You've got things like scenario analysis, where you can basically wargame different potential futures, or a bow tie analysis, which helps you visually map out the causes and effects of a single risk. Each one of these gives you a slightly different, more human-centric view of what you're up against. All right, let's switch gears and talk about the other side of the brain, the quantitative tools. This is where we move away from feelings and start looking at the figures. We're talking hard data, objective metrics, the kind of stuff that lets us make decisions with real precision. And one of the most important tools here is the Key Risk Indicator, or KRI. Now, a KRI is not about measuring a failure after it's already happened. Think of it like a smoke detector. Its whole purpose is to give you that early warning that something isn't right, so you have time to act before the fire starts. And this isn't some abstract theory, right? Think about it in a real business. Let's say the number of supplier delivery delays starts to creep up. That could be a KRI for a huge supply chain breakdown. Or what if employee turnover in a critical department suddenly spikes? That's a massive red flag for operational risk. These numbers tell a story if you know how to listen. Another really powerful quantitative tool, especially in the world of finance, is value at risk, or VAR. It's a statistical model that's designed to answer one very specific, very important question. What is the absolute most we could realistically lose on any given day? It puts a real dollar figure on your potential downside. So what does that actually mean? If a company has a 95% VAR of $1 million, it doesn't mean they expect to lose $1 million. It means that, based on all the data, there's only a 5% chance, so maybe one day a month, that their losses will go beyond that $1 million mark. It takes a fudgy, abstract risk and makes it totally tangible. So, which one's better, qualitative or quantitative? Well, the real answer is neither, or rather, both. The absolute best, most robust approach is to combine them. You use the qualitative insights, the why, to give meaning and context to all that quantitative data, the how much. Put them together and you get a complete 360-degree view of your risks. Okay, so we've got our qualitative and quantitative tools. Awesome. But a toolbox full of great tools is pretty useless if you don't have a plan. And that's where a structured process comes in. It's what turns all that information into real, meaningful action. It all works as this continuous loop. You start by defining your scope. What exactly are we looking at here? Then you go out and collect the evidence using all those tools we've been talking about. Next, you analyze what you found, looking for patterns. From there, you report your findings and recommend some real, actionable changes. And then, this is the most important part, you monitor and review how those changes are working, which feeds right back into the beginning of the cycle. It's a constant process of getting smarter.
So, where is all this headed? The world of risk is changing faster than ever before. Technology, globalization, new social expectations, it's a lot. Let's take a quick look at what's coming up on the horizon.
We're seeing some absolutely huge shifts. Artificial intelligence is taking risk management from being reactive to being predictive. There's a massive and, frankly, long overdue focus on ESG risks. That's environmental, social, and governance. And we're even starting to bring in things like behavioral science to better understand the human reasons why people make risky choices.
Let's just double-click on AI for a second, because the impact here is just transformative. AI and machine learning can chew through enormous data sets in real time, spotting these tiny little patterns and emerging threats that a human team could never, ever hope to catch. It's literally changing risk evaluation from a once-in-a-while snapshot to a continuous, live, and incredibly accurate process. And that leaves us with one final, really important thought to chew on. As technology like AI gets better and better at predicting what's coming, we have to ask a tough question. Is our biggest threat something so new and complex that we don't know how to measure it yet? Or is it the risk that our tools have already put right in front of our faces, but that we as people simply choose to ignore? Something to think about.